Time to tackle the rest of the discovery set. Time to see if Electimuss lives up to my amazing part 1 experience. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel, today we're talking fragrances, and this is fragrance speed dating with Electimuss London, part 2. In this series, I tackle my ever-growing mountain of samples, and I just give my first impressions on houses, on genres, on everything that comes under my nose. It's a really fun and quick way for me to experience new brands, new fragrances. It allows me to expand my mental database of fragrances, to really take in all your suggestions. I've purchased many discovery kits. It also doesn't hurt that you guys seem to really enjoy the format, so we're gonna keep the ball rolling. Today, we're gonna be tackling the second part of this beautiful discovery set by Electimuss. If you haven't watched the part 1 video of this discovery set, I really advise you to do so, because there I was very ecstatic while sampling the first 10 fragrances from this massive discovery set. This is a 20 fragrance discovery set. It's absolutely amazing. Again, I was really enjoying the first 10. And today we're going to be doing the full second row of this sample set. I really want to emphasize how ecstatic I was while sampling the first row of this discovery set. All the fragrances were very unique, very distinct one from another. While I kind of struggled to find a common theme throughout the house when smelling these first 10 fragrances, the brand does definitely not smell like one of those high-end clone brands. It's very unique, very characterful. I still don't understand what the vibe is other than being luxurious. By the way, I forgot to mention in my last video that apparently Electimuss is like a sister brand to Edesia the Victorious. So there might be a little bit of a similarity there. I'm not really sure. I have yet to smell anything from Edesia, and I'm very much looking forward to do that. So I really can't give any comparison directly. Other than that, again, I really like the fragrances. They were all interesting. By the way, on the official website, you can find a brief description of each fragrance featuring also the perfumer. Here I have a printout of that description, of that list of everything that's in this discovery set. Last video, I was basically reading the description and then I would smell the fragrance, and we're gonna keep doing that. And just to recap, last video we smelled Amber Aquilaria, Aquila Absolute, Auster, Black Caviar, Capua, Caspian Cherry, Celestial, Cupid's Kiss, Gladiator Oud, and Imperium. And today we're gonna be smelling Mercurial Cashmere, Patchouli of the Underworld, Persephone's Patchouli, Puritas, Rhodanthe, Silvanus, Spice d'Arno, Trajan, Vanilla Edesia, and Vixere. But before we get to smelling, if you're new to this sort of format, let me just recap how all this works. Fragrance speed dating is all about the very first impressions, very first opening of the fragrances. Basically, I wanted to replicate the idea of walking into a shop and smelling a fragrance brand for the first time. In a shop, you're usually smelling fragrances on a strip, and we're gonna be doing the same thing, which is a stark difference from my usual doing. I tend to like to spray fragrances on skin. I wear my fragrances on skin because I like the way that my skin really develops the fragrance and adds a lot of character. Obviously, I don't have enough skin to spray 10 fragrances, so we're gonna be spraying on strip. I'll also be assigning a score 1 to 10 for each fragrance based solely on the opening and first impressions. Once again, very speed dating style. At the end, I'll choose the fragrance that I like the most. I'll be spraying it on skin just to see how it compares to the strip and just to see if the brand has a lot of development. Last time, my favorite fragrance ended up being Amber Aquilaria by Juliana Skinet. I have to say that the wear experience between skin and strip was pretty similar. Yes, the skin kind of brought in a little bit more warmth and a little bit more depth, but overall it was fairly comparable. I feel that Electimuss as a brand comes across as very perfumey, very utilitarian, and despite these fragrances having a lot of character, they kind of seem to be designed to be sprayed all over while trying to maintain the wear experience as predictable as possible. This is very different from something like Papillon Perfumery, always from England. Those fragrances really need skin to properly develop. Okay, enough with the chatter. The first fragrance that we're going to be looking at is Mercurial Cashmere. All right, let's look it up here. Mercurial Cashmere is by Sofia Bardelli. It says, a textured white floral scent with a sweet tooth revolving around the timeless beauty of tuberose. All right, I really like tuberose, by the way, and I like fragrances that are revolving around tuberose. They're very heavy, very indulged, very wet, very floral, very realistic. They tend to be, at least. Let's see what this one here is like. By the way, I really want to open a parenthesis for these amazing samples. They spray super well. It feels like the brand cares. It feels luxurious. It feels like you're getting what you're paying for. Okay, so there's definitely a lot of tuberose in here. It really reminds me of a more feminine version of Meo Fusciuni's Odor 93. It's not as fresh, not as watery, not as photorealistic as something like Carnal Flower by Frederic Malle. Nowhere near like that. This is much sweeter, it's much more gourmand, it's much more perfumey in a way. Carnal Flower to me is like the best representation of tuberose ever. It's so incredibly realistic. This comes across much more as your typical woman's perfume. And again, it's completely unisex. Anyone can wear this, but it's definitely more, again, more perfumey, more utilitarian. There's a lot of sweetness in here. I don't think this is my sort of thing. It's definitely not made for me. It's a little bit too sweet. It kind of reminds me of something like the Dior Poison or something like that. It has a little bit of this designer-ish mass appealingness to it. It's very, very beautiful, very, very potent. In the air, I can easily smell it. These two sprays are basically filling the space. But yeah, if I were to judge Electimuss just based on this, it would probably be a little bit underwhelming. I mean, it's good, but it's not special. It doesn't feel unique or super special. Let me just check again here. It says that it's, oh, okay. It's a floral scent with a sweet tooth. That's why it smells so gourmand in a way. It has this very, very sweet undertone. It's good, but yeah, third person mode. I'm walking into a shop, I'm smelling this. I would be like, yeah, it's good, but not too impressed. Probably like a 6.5, 7 out of 10, something like that. Our second fragrance to be sampled today is Patchouli of the Underworld. I really like the name. It has a really dark sort of vibe. I'm expecting a very dark, mossy, shady, maybe cavey, earthy patchouli. Let's see if this lives up to the name. First and foremost, let's see who did this. This is by Kevin Matisse, which last time also we sampled one and it was Caspian Cherry. Anyway, the description says, Patchouli of the Underworld is an unapologetically dark and mysterious patchouli fragrance. All right, very, very straightforward. Some of these descriptions were a lot more creative and enticing, but hey, it's a scent that talks. Let's see what this is about. First and foremost, this is super, super potent. It's definitely dark. It has a lot of greenery to it. It has a lot of balsamicness to it. There's something in here which is triggering a memory from another fragrance. I'm not really sure which one though. All right, so the patchouli in here is very clearly patchouli, very, very dark. It's a lot woody. As I said, there's a little bit of a green note that's kind of balsamic. It doesn't smell like your typical musty, mossy, moldy patchouli. It's very much not as earthy. It's much more woody. It's much more burnt to a degree. I feel like there's maybe some sort of like a fresh incense, which again, combined with this balsamic note, comes across as almost mentholated. Really, really interesting, really, really pretty. It's a little bit one-dimensional, meaning that it's very clear in its image, but it smells unique. It has almost like a little bit of an aniseed, maybe licorice type of smell, like a very rooty, woody type of smell. I like this a lot. It's very, very beautiful, very, very nose catching. Maybe I'm a little bit jaded and less impressible today, but I have to fully admit that if you were to walk in a store and smell this, you would be like, wow, this smells really unique. Really interesting. It has this freshness, which is really balancing out this darkness. It kind of comes across as like the smell of a cave, but not wet or petrichor-like. It's very dense and foggy, almost smoky. It's kind of also reminding me a little bit of Interlude Man by Amouage. It has the same sort of a very chokingly sweet, dense smoke. Very, very beautiful. I would say opening alone is like a 7.5 out of 10. This is a very interesting scent. I like it. Okay, fragrance number 3 is another patchouli. This one here is Persephone's Patchouli. Another cool name. Let's see who made this one here. Persephone's Patchouli is by Christian Provenzano. A pleasure-evoking patchouli scent with a gourmand twist. Bright and uplifting, the fragrance has an energy and feel of a warm spring day. Okay, so this appears to be like a stark difference from the Patchouli of the Underworld, at least in vibes. Let's see how this fares. Wow, completely different. This is indeed very bright, very fresh. There's almost no patchouli that is detectable. If I wouldn't know that there was patchouli in here, I'd probably even not pick it up. This comes across as a very beautiful, dense floral scent. There's a lot of white florals in here. There's a lot of like jasmine, very heavy, very furry, very musky. I don't think that it necessarily evokes the feeling of a sunny day, as the description says, but it's much brighter than the other one. I like the other one a lot more. It suits my style, it suits my taste, but this one is objectively very beautiful. If the other one were to lean a little bit masculine to my taste, this one here definitely goes a little bit feminine. And again, the fragrances smell completely unrelated. It's not like one is masculine and one is feminine. They don't smell alike whatsoever. I really want to stress how the patchouli in here is barely detectable. It actually kind of reminds me of something like a little bit like the patchouli in something like Chanel Coromandel. Very creamy, very almost like white chocolate in a way. Has this very beige color. This whole scent comes across as white, beige, maybe light gray, a very off-white type of smell. Very clean, very elegant, but also kind of heavy. A little bit more for the evenings maybe. It's a little bit more mature leaning than I thought it would be. I think that this kind of resembles the first one that we smelled. The Mercurial Cashmere has the same sort of a perfumey type of vibe to it. It's less experimental. The fragrances that I smelled last episode were for the most part very unique and characterful. This one here comes across as a little bit more safe. I think that this one here is the one that I like the least from the three for now. It's good, it's well made, it smells luxurious, it smells high quality, but it's not enticing. This would not entice me to go to Electimuss. Again, I'm really trying to think about why I want to go to Electimuss and what drives me to the high price of Electimuss, because if you didn't know, Electimuss is very expensive. The full bottles run basically from like 250 pounds to like 450 pounds, depending on the ingredients, depending on the bottle. So you really have to be committed to the house. You really have to be committed to the brand in order to invest in that. And this one here doesn't really give me that sort of drive or commitment. It's good, but probably something like a 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10, maybe. Fragrance number 4 is Puritas. Puritas is by Cristian Provenzano once again. So, Puritas opens up with a sharp, almost medicinal feel. Elemi, pink pepper, and saffron are joined by the bitterness of absinthe to create a fusion of elements reminiscent of an apothecary's shop full of drying herbs. This sounds really interesting from the description. Actually, one of my favorites from the last episode was Capua, also from Cristian Provenzano. That one there was the one that kind of reminded me of Silver Oud. I then went to look up the fragrance, and apparently a lot of the people say that it smells kind of like Black Afghano, which is not too dissimilar from Silver Oud realistically, but yeah, we'll see what this one here smells like. This sounds really cool. Really green, really pungent, really medicinal. Holy crap, they weren't joking. This also kind of reminds me of something very familiar smelling. What does this smell like? Has a very sweet green type of smell. It's not dry or bitter. It doesn't smell too mature or serious. It reminds me of something which I can't put my finger on. This one also definitely has some sort of an aniseed licorice root, maybe wormwood, something like that. It has a very syrupy, very gooey type of greenery to it. It might also be the incense or the elemi. Oh wait, I actually know what this reminds me of. This reminds me of the opening of something like Memo Paris Tiger's Nest. It has that very balsamic, smoky, very resinous opening. Very sticky, very molasses-like. I like this a lot. Pungent, strong, really in your face. In order to enjoy this, you really need to appreciate that sort of balsamic smell that kind of is resembling tiger balm or something like that. It has a very zen-like, very meditative type of smell. This is definitely my thing. I really like this. This is really, really good. It smells more complex than Tiger's Nest. It smells like it has more facets. Tiger's Nest was very much an incense fragrance. This has incense, it has that balsamic factor, but it also has a little bit of a deeper, drony, woody type of facet. Really, really interesting. Super unisex. I'm not really sure if women would like to wear this, but it definitely comes across as unisex. It's very abstract. It's not typically anything. It's really nice. Strong opening. I like this a lot. This is definitely at least a 7.5 out of 10. Fragrance number 5 is another clear one. This one here is Rhodanthe. Let's check it out. Also by Sofia Bartelli, and it says, luscious and dewy, Rhodanthe opens up with uplifting citruses and the sparkle of a pear, spiked through with cloves. This quickly melts into a gorgeous and sumptuous heart of rose, which is pillowy, decadent, and indulgent. Okay, let's try this out. By the way, last time I smelled Imperium, also by Sofia Bartelli. I seem to remember that one was the fresh and citrusy one. I wasn't too impressed with that. It felt a little bit more middle of the road and generic. And also Mercurial Cashmere was a little bit perfumey, so we'll see where this one here goes. This smells very shampoo-ish. Very fruity in a very soft way. This one here kind of reminds me of Zerjoff. It has that shampoo, very beautiful, musky, fresh, fluffy towel smell. This is very pretty. It's objectively high quality. It smells high quality. It smells very radiant and powerful, but the scent profile, I smelled so much stuff that smells similar to this, even within the Electimuss London Discovery set. I'm just not as impressed, so I don't know. What did this one say again? Rhodanthe opens up with uplifting citruses and a sparkle of pear. Yeah, so very fruity. Definitely not my thing. It smells very generic to me, but hey, again, third person mode. You're walking into a shop, you're smelling Electimuss, you're looking for something more modern, more fresh, more fruity. This would probably work out. But again, if you smelled anything from Zerjoff, the V line, like Accento or even to a degree Erba Pura, if you smelled stuff from Electimuss London, this will really smell similar. Not that impressed. This scent profile is again very generic, very safe in a way. It smells a little bit overdone. It's definitely the least impressive from the Discovery set that I smelled to date. I'll give this like a 6 out of 10. Fragrance number 5 is another clear one. This one here is Silvanus. I'm expecting something foresty and green, given the name. This one here is by Marco Genovese, and it says, bright and bracing, Silvanus evokes a walk in the deepest part of the forest, accompanied by nothing but the clean air and a birdsong. Okay, sounds right up my alley. It might be very photorealistic, or it might be something more designery and generic. Hopefully not the latter. Stark difference from anything else, especially the stuff that I smell today. This is very dry, very bitter. There's no hint of sweetness in here. Wow, it's almost like piercing to the nose. It's so bitter. There's a lot of mentholated greenery. There's a lot of metallicness in here. It's very sharp. It smells kind of like, it's kind of reminding me of something like Ganymede or even Supernova by Gritti. Wow, very sharp, very, I think intentionally masculine. I think that this is designed to be more masculine. It has this sort of hyper clean smell, kind of like a metal surface just wiped down with rubbing alcohol or some other very potent cleaning product, like some sort of a very potent disinfectant. A little bit medicinal, but very sharp, very green. This lies really high up in the tone range. It's again piercing. It's almost balsamic to a degree. It's almost clearing my nostrils. Very masculine, very bright. Smells a little bit too clinical, a little bit too laboratory setting for me. But I have to at least applaud the fact that it's super unique, especially compared to everything else in the box. And for that alone, I have to at least give it a 7. Although it's not for me, it's pretty enticing, pretty nose-catching. Fragrance number 7 is Spice d'Arno. Spice d'Arno is by Céline Barel. Never heard of her. Spice d'Arno is a soothing and rhythmical composition which moves like the flow of the river for which it's named. Gentle spices paired with the leather and a gentle floral tone make this a flowing and sweet scent to wear. Okay, so the Arno is actually a river in Tuscany. It's the river that goes through Florence. And I don't really see the connection with spices or with vanillas or with sweetness, but hey, it's good to try. This is actually a fragrance that I've seen for sale on my local marketplace, secondhand. It's not too expensive, so if I like it, I might even pick up a bottle. So, this one also reminds me of something, but I know what this one smells like. This one smells like Xerjoff Symphonium. It has a very strong vanilla type of chocolatey feel. It has the same uber sweetness as something like Profumo Roma's Acqua e Zucchero, which also kind of reminds me of L'Acquolina's Pink Sugar. It smells a little bit synthetic. I don't really pick up on the vanillas or the sweet spices or all the nuances in here. It just smells like a really overpowered sweet bomb, like a forced gourmand. I'm not into this at all, but I can't see how it's appealing. This is a very, very nose-catching fragrance, and especially if you're coming from the designer world, this one here will get your attention. For whatever reason, this smell, I pick up a lot of licorice in here. I don't know why, because L'Acquolina's Pink Sugar, I don't think it has licorice. And even Xerjoff Symphonium had that dark chocolate paired with the citruses, which for whatever reason, they came across as very licoricely-like. And also, as I mentioned, Profumo Roma's Acqua e Zucchero has still the same sort of scent profile. I don't know why, but the scent profile kind of reminds me of the Tic Tac candies. It has this like minty licorice sort of smell, which is all wrapped up in this hard shell candy. I don't get much depth in here. There's just this incredibly overpowering sweet smell. It doesn't smell unique to me. It's a little bit heavy, a little bit too heavy for my taste. It's way too sweet. And I truly, truly don't understand the connection between this and the river. There's no flowiness to it. There's no watery aspect. There's nothing about the elegance and the romance of Florence or the Tuscany. I have no idea. I have no idea why they named this Spice d'Arno. There's almost barely any spice in here. Nothing that I can detect. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10 just because it's incredibly powerful and it's very, very difficult to ignore. So again, third person mode, you're walking into a shop, you smell this, you're gonna be like, at least you're gonna be like, wow, this is super intense. Really, really not for me. 6.5 out of 10. I'm kind of underwhelmed by the second part of this discovery set here. The first 10 were so good, so unique, so intense in a way. These last ones here are incredibly generic, very pedestrian, very safe. This one here is Trajan and it's fragrance number 8. Let's check it out. This one here is by Marco Genovese once again. Inhale the sweet, uplifting aromas of citrus groves. Traverse fields of lavender and sage. Step lightly through the cedar wood and melt finally into pillows of sugar and spice. Unfortunately, the description does not sound enticing when there's like sugar and spice. Oh my god, I feel like this is another one of those generic ones. Yup, another one of those very generic, very sweet, very modern type of pseudo gourmands here. This one also smells incredibly familiar. What does this smell like? This kind of reminds me of, is it possible this is reminding me of like Baccarat Rouge 540 or something like that? Has the same sort of amber, woody, and ambroxany, very kind of like empty volume type of sweetness. It kind of reminds me of the Initio fragrances. This is super boring. I really don't like this. This is really, really underwhelming. Sorry, but if I were to approach Electimuss and I was given this, I would be really questioning the brand. This has zero character. It smells so incredibly familiar, so generic. It's really boring. Again, it might be some sort of a clone of something like Baccarat Rouge 540. That DNA has been done to death, almost like the Aventus in the mill space. This is super boring, really, really generic. I'm not gonna even bother going further with this. This is a low effort fragrance in my opinion. I get it that Electimuss wants to appeal also to this sort of audience, but you have to bring out something a little bit more unique, something that has a little bit more character, something that has your signature. This smells like every other thing in the women's aisle of the airport duty-free. It's really boring. I don't like this at all. This is easily the worst one that I smell from the Discovery set. It's like a 5 out of 10 at most. Once again, I'm super underwhelmed. I'm really hoping that these last two fragrances redeem themselves. This one here is a little bit darker, so there's hope. This is Vanilla Edesia. Vanilla Edesia is by Cécile Zarokian. Wow, okay, different perfumer. I have hopes. A decadent vanilla scent that reveals the light and dark sides of the exotic orchid fruit. I have high hopes once again. Maybe there's a little bit of a density, maybe there's a unique aspect to this. This might be a redemption arc after all. This is a very edgy, very interesting, very characterful type of scent while still being mass appealing given the fact that it's a vanilla. And also Cécile Zarokian is famous for her mass appealing sort of DNA. This smells like a Cécile Zarokian in the way that it kind of radiates off the strip. She has a very specific type of way of building ambers and vanillas that they're all very warm. They're warm to the smell, they're warm to the touch. I don't know what she does. Maybe it's some sort of spice that she puts in there, but this definitely smells like one of her creations. It has this incredibly dry, warming type of feeling, like warm sand, like warm rocks that have been baking under the sun, but now it's evening, but still when you touch them, they kind of pull the moisture out of your skin, like from your feet or your hands when you touch it. Very radiant. It has this underlying sweetness that's not overdone. Really, really beautiful stuff. I like this. It's a gourmand without being an obvious gourmand to me. I'm getting images of the desert maybe at sunset, like right after the sun has gone over the dunes. There's this warm wind just kind of like shaping the dunes. Everything is really warm. Everything is really dry, and it smells like the romanticized version of a desert. It smells like the fairy tale version of a desert. I like this. It's very beautiful, very romantic, very appealing, very relaxing to a degree. This would be a pretty strong contender for pretty much the best one that I smell today. I would think that this is at least a 7 out of 10, maybe even a 7.5 out of 10. Last fragrance from this Discovery set is Vixere. Vixere is again by Sofia Bardelli. Unfortunately, I have not been too impressed by her creations. The description says, Vixere takes the wearer on a stroll through the beautiful palace gardens with its indulgent, sensual, and creamy floral composition. Oh, maybe it's one of those boring ones again. Let's see. Okay, so given my expectations were so low, I'm not that disappointed. This is actually better than I was expecting. It's fresh, it's zingy, it's quite uplifting. It smells like orange blossom. That is definitely the most detectable note in here. There's also a sweet, zesty sort of citrus in here. Maybe like a mandarin, maybe like a sweet orange, maybe some sort of a sweet lemon peel that's very candied in a way. It smells clean, it smells musky, but it doesn't smell like shampoo. It smells more elegant, it smells more refined than that. And I kind of do agree with the picture. She says that it's like a stroll through a beautiful palace garden. I can see that. Very beautiful, very elegant, not too terribly unique, but I guess every brand needs its orange blossom scent. And this smells good. It smells high quality. Very luxurious. I like this a lot. This is actually one of the better ones. Unfortunately, it's very hard to make an orange blossom fragrance stand out. Very difficult because it's such a recognizable note. It's such a recognizable ingredient. Yeah, not terribly unique, but it's well done. It's really good. I like it a lot. Okay, Sofia Bardelli, you kind of redeemed yourself with this one here. This is pretty good. I would say this is an easy 7 out of 10. Okay, we're at the end of the Discovery set. I'm really sad to announce that the latter 10 were easily the worst from the Discovery set. I don't know why they put them this way. And for whatever reason, I kind of have confirmation that the lighter scents are the more boring, the more pedestrian, the more generic ones. My favorite probably still remains Amber Aquilaria from the first 10. I would say that my favorite from the latter 10 is either Patchouli of the Underworld, which was quite unique, quite an interesting concept and development. I felt that it really represented the darkness of a cave and the smokiness of a cave. Or the other one I think was Puritas, and that one was by Christian Provenzano. Let me just double check. Yes, it was the one that smelled like the balsamic absinthe. Let me just remind myself. What was this like? Yeah, this one here is the one that kind of smelled like Tiger's Nest by Memo Paris. I think that ultimately my winner for today is Patchouli of the Underworld. So we're going to be spraying that on my skin. Let's just give it a couple sprays. See how this one goes. While we wait for it kind of to develop, again, I'm a little bit disappointed in the fact that Electimuss leaned into the mass appealingness of the brand. And I get it that you need to sell fragrances, you need to appeal to the masses, but giving up your identity like this, making these incredibly generic offerings, to me is like a sin. It's a sin for the creativity of a house. It's really a sin in art and artistry, and I do realize that I'm being a little bit harsh. But I also think that if you're into the perfume market like this, if you're offering a product which is so high-end, especially so curated and cared for, even in the presentation department, offering basically clones of popular DNAs is just not cool. It's really, really not cool. And I can't endorse that whatsoever. First 10 fragrances were absolutely amazing. Again, I was super impressed. Latter 10, not so much. I still recommend the Discovery set. I still think that it's an amazing value because for about 95 pounds, 100 euros, 100 bucks, you get 20 fragrances, really, really good samples, 2 mls each, super powerful fragrances. They're all pretty good. Again, some are pretty generic, but they're all objectively high quality. So I do recommend you pick up the sample set. Also, you can detract the value of the Discovery set from a potential purchase, but I'm not really sure I'm going to recommend that. In any case, fun sampling, fun times. The Discovery set to me is well worth it, and it's just well worth your time. Let's see where this Patchouli of the Underworld is going on my skin. Still really interesting, still very dark, still very moody, and it still has that licorice sort of smokiness to it. It has a sweet, tangy, pungent smoke, a little bit medicinal. Really, really interesting. Let me just pick up my sample here. It smells remarkably similar to the sampling on the strip, so I guess that's a good thing because you can spray this wherever and it will still work. It will still be a very predictable wear. I like this a lot. If I were to find a bottle of this at a reasonable price, I'd probably pick it up. This is really interesting. It smells quite unique. Nothing that I have smells exactly like it, except for, again, it kind of reminds me of Interlude Man. That smokiness, that density of the smokiness with the sweetness to it. And it has a little bit of a choking factor. It's like a more appealing Interlude Man. Again, that's what I'm getting. I might be wrong, but interesting stuff. I like it. The other ones, Puritas was also pretty good. Let me just spray this on skin also. I like this. Super quickly. Very, very clear medicinal balsamic type of incense, kind of reminiscent of Memo Paris Tiger's Nest. That's not a bad thing. That's an amazing incense fragrance. I would rather probably wear this just because, again, it has a little bit more complexity in the bottom. It feels a little bit more dense. It feels a little bit more robust. Okay, time to cut it off. I don't want to be too negative. Once again, the Discovery set is amazing. I do highly recommend it. The first 10 are absolutely bangers. And yeah, Amber Aquilaria by Julien Schignette is magnificent. Also, the other ones by Junior Skinet were really, really good. The other ones being Cupid's Kiss, Gladiator Oud, and I think something else. I guess that's it. Once again, if you haven't watched part 1, I really recommend you do so. I'm a lot more optimistic. I'm a lot more enthusiastic about the house. Electimuss is a cool house. They have a lot of potential. They definitely have to work on their theme and image a little bit more. But overall, I do applaud their presentation and I do applaud their care for their products. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and it helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. It's never taken for granted. As usual, many more videos to come. See you in the next one and cheers.